Right, well, welcome everybody. We're on the road again, and what a trip, an epic trip. We're in the... What part of Devon is this, Simon?
Rural part of Devon.
The rural part of Devon. You're not kidding me. It is the rural part of Devon. It's a lovely part of Devon. We are in the company of double world champion, chair of the Colour Canary Breeders Association.
Yep.
I've got that right. Yep. Well done, me. And panel judge.
Yes.
All-round good guy. Makes a bloody lovely breakfast as well. So if you see me dropping off throughout the show, it's not because of anything else, that I'm absolutely full to the rafters. Simon, it is of course Simon Meredith. Simon, welcome to the Canary Room. Thanks for I was going to say thanks for inviting me down, but as with all of these things, I think I probably invited myself. We have got a real super treat for you today. We are in the company of Simon, who's kept birds for a significant amount of time, although you don't look old enough. Let me just put that on record, saying there.
Great thing to say.
But in terms of both the quality of the birds and the variety of the birds, and Simon today, with his incredible setup here, is going to demystify new colours for all of us. So no pressure, mate.
No, none taken. It's very easy, as we said in the beginning.
Oh, super stuff. Well, listen, everyone, grab yourself a cuppa, sit back and enjoy what will be an absolutely belter of a show. So, Simon, we've got, it's a wonderful room. It's one of the nicest, aesthetically pleasing bird rooms I think I've ever been in. We've got a shot from the outside of this here. It's a belter, isn't it, mate? You must be delighted with it.
Well, I think so. I wanted it to be a belter, and it turned out it was going to be a cheap build. And then my mate, who is a builder, decided we'd go the full Monty and have it as it should be, cedar-clad, fiberglass roof. And he's yet to do my breeding room, because this is my molting room, which we're going to have to breed in this year, because like all builders, he's now decided he's too busy to fit me in. So yeah, well pleased with it, and let's just hope the birds are.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, the light in here is incredible, which is obviously important in new colours. But Simon, we were talking over breakfast about where it all began, and the viewers to the channel are always sort of fascinated to know, how did you get into it? And for many of us, it's, or it was a family member or something like that. Your story's an interesting one, isn't it?
Well, I suppose it could be interesting, yeah. As a youngster, I was into birds of both varieties, feathered and young ladies. And this one particular girl I was with at the time, Sharon, in the day, her dad was very big into canaries. Didn't know it at the time, because I used to see him walking backwards and forwards to a room in the garden, a shed, for want of a better term, and happened to say to him, well, what's that? What's your dad doing? What are you doing there, Bob, in and out of there all the time? He said, well, that's where my canaries are kept. Oh. And to cut a long story short, I ended up saying to him, can I have a look, please? I went in and saw all these Gloucesters, so he was a big Gloucester man, and saw these few red canaries in there. And I said to him, these are absolutely outstanding, I love these to bits. And he said, they don't breed in here, so they'll probably be going. So he kindly gave me 4 cages in the corner. I went and got myself some stock from one of the great stalwarts of the day, who's now deceased, a good friend of ours in the end, called Howard Bagnall in the Midlands. And that's where it all started. 4 pairs of red canaries, and blew Bob out of the water, because bred 32 in his shed the first year. And that was the start of it, to get me birds up at mum and dad's then. And that's where it all came from, really. Yeah,
and like many of us, you've been hooked ever since. It's funny, actually, Simon, because my first pair of canaries was actually a pair of, they were called red factors at the time, but I had a pair of reds and a pair of rollers as well. So, and I had them. I was reminding my mum on the way down here in the car that I said, do you remember those birds that you let me have in my bedroom? She looked at me, she goes, what? I said, yeah, no, I had a double breeder in my bedroom.
It took me ages to get my dad. It took a load of the neighbours as well to get my dad to let me have a bird room in his garden. And then that was it. I was away. Once I moved out and bought my first house, it's always been one of those things, like all of us, it gets you, and for some reason you've got to have the best of what you can get at the time. And I guess that's where we're all today, things like we all want to make it easier for ourselves. We want to have the best environment for us and the birds. And, we want to give them the welfare as well. For me, it's a big thing to have the birds having the welfare.
No,
so,
absolutely. I mean, the height in here is wonderful. The cleanliness in here is wonderful. The freshness in here is wonderful. I mean, the North Devon, South Devon, Mid Devon, whatever part of Devon air we're in is helping. But it's a well thought through room, this, isn't it? And the cages, you've got the we'll call it the continental system of paper underneath. You're gonna have to pronounce that, Simon, because I'm not gonna take a run at that. The cages are what?
So most of the cages in here, the breeding cages, are the Terraziani 45s on the paper system. So add those keep adding to them. I've probably got 60 of these now between here and another room, so 50 in here. Yeah, paper system, really easy to do. Every Friday it is my chore. I just come in, pull the paper through, put it away to burn it on the fire, and if I need to, once a month I just change all the grills and wash them. And then my other cages, my flight cages, I've just bought off young Charlie, who's my son at Exceed. So we've gone with the new Canaries, which is a similar system, but I'm well pleased with the option on them because great for the youngsters, the flights, and great for the hens to condition them. So yeah, I just want it simple so I can spend time with my birds, not cleaning cages. Yeah,
and there's something for all of us to look to. Now, you've mentioned Charlie, and we will talk about it because it's become a family affair, hasn't it? And your son, who is, he's a bit of a cyclist, is our Charlie, isn't he?
Yeah, Charlie won the Junior Tour of Ireland and he's won various big races, Tour of Liège, and Charlie was just about to turn World Tour when COVID hit. So he wanted to do something slightly different because he was a bit bored, still cycling, may go back to it at that level, but decided to get his teeth into something like this, which he's flourished with, really. It's just given another thing to do. I have very little involvement, only a bit of advice for him, and the day-to-day business, I'm too busy in my own job to get involved with him, but he's very passionate about it, and that's quite good to see that another youngster has got another pair of eyes and another view and is diversifying into his life to make it a bit more fruitful for himself.
Yeah, and he's done, he's check him out, give his website a little look out, Exceed, E-X-Seed, that's right, isn't
supplies,
it? Yeah, supplies. So have a look at that and some of the range of stuff that, Simon's using here. I think whenever you've got people who are running companies like that are involved in the hobby, what they're selling is always going to be good. So do have a look at him and check that out. Now, Simon, look, we're gonna have a masterclass now because we chatted before in the kitchen about the different varieties of colours, and one of the things that you said to me, and we're in the midst of the breeding, so the start of the breeding season here, and one of the things you said to me is it's really straightforward. And then you talked about lots of different things, and I just sat in both admiration, because obviously there's an awful lot of knowledge, and over the next half an hour, 40 minutes or so, we're going to try and pull as much of that out of you as we can.
Okay.
But also, actually, you did simplify it, and you talked about with the colours, because firstly, that's part of the appeal to you, isn't it? The variety of different things and the new things, and we'll have a look a bit later on in the show about some of the new things that you're working on in the room as well, yeah. Some of the different variants that you're working on. But the different variety within this type of bird, new colour bird, but you did simplify it. You said there's just 4 things you need to think about.
Yeah, you said earlier about, it's so complicated, but, take colour as an aside, and we all know colour and we can see colour, whether it's red, red ivory, yellow, white, yellow ivory. So there's your colours. And think about the feather type also, whether it's mosaic, non-intensive, buff to people like you that are Norwich breeders, and yellow, which is intensive to us. Yeah. So there's your feather types. Then it's very, very simple because you have 4 then classics, which are black and brown, and then you get the 2 dilutes of black and brown, which are the dilute of black is agate and the dilute of brown is isabel. Apart from that is where they're your starting point. After that become your mutations, which does then add complexity to it. but it's no more complex than that. It's black agate, Matt. Remember agate?
He's pulled me on this. It's not a gat, it's a gate. A gate, apparently. I'm calling them agats. He told me there's an E on the end of it.
I told him I used to shoot my mate with a little gat, a little .77 gat when I was young. So it's an agate. And then you've got your browns and your isabel, so if you remember that, we'll come on to mutations after. That's your starting point.
Yeah.
Feather, colour, classic.
Yeah.
Done.
Easy as. Wonderful. So Simon, when we look at what you've got on, I mean, we talked a little bit about the cage and the cage system, and then there's a fair number of the different variants in the room, isn't there? And we'll look at those, and you'll talk us through certainly what you as a champion breeder and judge are looking for. But I'm fascinated on the sort of the feeding system. It's the breeding season. It's the start of the breeding season here at the moment. So you've not long put the birds together.
Yep, last weekend.
You trim them.
Trim the vents and the tails, and people say about the tails, but a bit like some of the Norwich guys, you want to give every opportunity for the cock to get right under. So I've done that for quite a few years now, and it seems to give them the chance to mate properly.
Yeah. Superstar. So it's just those. It's those. You mentioned it just before. It's those sort of marginal gains, isn't it? Those little things the combination of those little things that you hope will give you the success over the season.
Yeah, and I think all of us think, don't we? You get a lot of people who change. I've used that soft food, and I'm not going to use it again because I had a crap season. And I think, a lot of things, that young Charlie's done in his cycling career, and, Lewis Hamilton and the people do, it's all about the marginal gains. And the birds are no different. If you give them the best food, they're in the best of health. And, I just feed a statutory 60% plain Canary, 40% Niger. And then I feed the Leggers incomplete system on the hoppers, which they can take ad lib, it's always there. And I feed the Bet Schroeder, which I find is an absolutely superb system in the full system of water. A lot of the Pridgeon boys do it, and it's always stood me well. But yeah, I think there's no one size fits all that does things easy. I think we need to concentrate on rounding the management system so that we enhance it enough to make our birds and give them the right environment to breed. That's the thing.
Yeah. And it is. It's all about. It's all sort of so sometimes within the fancy, we can get, my wife calls us tinkerers, and we can tinker because we're always looking for something, and it is always about those marginal gains, isn't it? Yeah. But I think what is important is that consistency of preparation, and once you've found something, and you mentioned the soft food, and we'll talk about colour feeding later on, and how that works particularly well in this specific variety of soft food. It is about finding those things and then being consistent with them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the colour canary breeders, we've latched onto a product called Loose many years ago, which for us has been, and the guy developed it as a soft food. It's a virgin product, so it's not made out of, the old bakery products and then crushed up. And for me, the birds actually eat all the product. And yeah, some people might say I can buy cheaper soft foods, but most of the colour canary guys, don't speak to me, speak to everybody who uses it. They actually eat the whole product. The other thing is they get the proteins right, so they got high protein in the breeding season, and they put it down for the molt. The Italian guys, it's an Italian product. Those guys are second to none, really. They think outside the box compared to us. And for me, it's a must, really. The birds naturally do want to breed.
Yeah.
The reason they don't breed is when we don't give them something in their environment that's incorrect. If you look at any of these birds here, some of them been in 10 days, they're all starting already because the preparation hopefully has run through. But yeah, birds don't naturally not want to breed.
No, absolutely. We're going to start now with some of these birds, and honestly, I mean, in terms of the new colours, there's This is me endearing myself to Simon with my knowledge. There's lots of different ones in here, isn't there, mate? See what I did there?
There is lots of different ones in here, yeah.
I did, actually. I think I did impress him because I spotted an absolutely banging pair of phaoes, and I was like, those phaoes are incredible. You should have seen the look of surprise on his face. He thought... Didn't think he knew, but I knew what I was looking for. Although he did ask me what another pair were up there, and I was like, not a clue. So Simon, I tell you what we'll do. We're going to start with. I'm going to probably call them the wrong thing. We're going to start with the classic red. I don't know whether it is called the classic red, but I've just made it up as.
It's better than what some people call them because some people call them red factors. So yeah, I'd say you're right. Reds.
Let's start with some of the reds, and I think if you can, talk to us about what makes a good bird and then what makes a great bird and the difference between the two. So we'll start with the reds and then we'll work our way around the room. Honestly, you are in for a real treat because I only hope that the quality of these birds, I'm able to capture them on camera because they are in tip-top condition and they are incredible. Absolutely incredible. So we'll start with the reds and then we'll work our way round.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think one of the things that we'll see here, Simon, is just the flexibility of this cage system. So we're gonna shoot these birds from above as you just literally pull a cage out and pop it on the table to have a look at. But pair of reds here, and even to the untrained eye, and I've kept birds and I've seen some good birds, and so it's not quite an untrained eye, but I certainly wouldn't know the finer points of them. They're a stunning pair of reds. They are a stunning pair of reds. So what are you looking for in a good pair of reds?
From a breeding perspective or judging perspective?
Really good question. So tell me breeding first, and then tell me how to judge what you're looking for.
Well, it's no different to what you guys do, really. You're not looking. So I'm looking for good colour. Obviously, that's the first and foremost thing for reds. It is because depending on which society you do in the UK, one has 50 points for colour, one has 30. You'll normally find that both societies pull out the best bird because colour almost is like anything king. Yeah, so that's the first thing. So we're looking for good colour. The non-intensives, a bit like your fives, will always show a little bit down in colour, so you always tend to look at the rump. So if we look at the rump, it should be a good intense colour. One of the things I always do with reds is I'm pulling the feathers in the breast, and I'm looking on a piece of 84 paper before I pair them up to make sure I don't sort of get too buffy a feather in my reds, because what you're looking for is a nice hard feather, and to let the red travel down as far in the feather as you possibly can. Overall, you're looking for a nice, even suffusion of frosting. One of my pet hates when I'm judging is frost-free chests. So I want to see a bird that's got absolutely beautiful scalloping the whole way over the bird, including the head. And for the rest of it, we're thinking about size because we have a standard of 5.5 inches. A lot of people are saying they're getting too big. Yes, some of them are, but you're compromising colour with size. So to get a good all-round bird, we're asking for the moon on a stick. To be fair, we haven't bred that yet. There is some superb breeders in the UK of reds, and I'd say we've probably got a hotbed of breeders in the UK that are equally hold their own with the foreign guys. So for me, you just want to be up there to compete with those. And reds are probably one of the hardest, or were always the hardest class. People now seem to be moving more into the melanin birds. One, because maybe they're just a bit more exciting for them, or maybe it's a competition, I don't know which. But for me, I was going to not pair any reds this year, and I got to the point and I thought, no, I can't really let them go. I've got to try. I've got to keep going because I do like them.
Yeah.
And they've been the mainstay for me for quite a few years now. Yeah. Since I started.
And I think, you mentioned it there, and I think it's a really important point, isn't it? The bird is feather, and actually the sort of that fixation of the different type of feather, because the feather quality that helps take the colour on ultimately.
Yes. Yeah, and I think what we tend to see is people are not paying too much attention to that in all of the coloured canaries. I've seen some Satinets I judged this year, but especially the reds. You're getting like the flanks are starting to get untidy. They're starting to get a bit trousery. The heads are getting a bit browy. All of the above. You look at the continental birds. I don't think they have the colour that some of our birds have. but they've definitely got the feather quality.
Yeah, yeah.
And you'll see that in some of the melanins that will give you that feather quality shortly.
Yeah, and they are. I mean, the quality, the feather quality on all the birds in here, I think, is a real credit to you, and that's obviously something which is developed over a period of time, and that sort of time thing fascinates me, Simon. So, you know, there are different varieties in the room, and I guess that's part of the attraction of the new colours, isn't it? In that the colour Canaries, in that you've got one variety fundamentally, but within it you've got lots of different colour variants, and so, you know, you've always got that interest to be retained.
Yeah, and what you'll tend to see is a lot of breeders will, what we call in the colour Canary fancy, go through fads, and you'll get birds that are trending, you know, so it might be mosaic red phaoes, it might be jasp, it might be cobalt, it might be agate pastel, it might be, you know, the new ones, satin max, that are not yet approved. It might be all of those. For me, luckily now I've kept every mutation of colour Canary. Jasp was last on my list. I joked with somebody probably about 10 years ago I'd never have a jasp in my shed. But being as you're judging, you need to ensure you've got them and you can see the finer points. But I think, yes, whether there's some absolutely stunning birds in yellow and white. It's great to see the Satinet coming back. There's one of the lads this year has been, you know, I think he started as a novice. He won the all-colour show with a intensive yellow Satinet. Absolutely outstanding bird, and the feather quality was superb. And everything about it was right. I think it took best yellow melanin show, and a real credit. And I think, you know, when they're focusing there and starting to looking at the overall picture of the bird rather than just one point, then we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of this is about education. And you said earlier, people don't understand it. You know, if a lot of them read the standards, a bit like they do in Fife, you know what you're aiming for.
Yeah.
Read the standards of your show book. And the other thing is, there's a lot of colour Canary breeders in the UK that don't want to show their birds. And I think for me, they don't realise what they got or how good of what they've got. And, you know, put them out, discuss them with people like ourselves, and you're going to get some good feedback, because all we want is to see better birds in the fancy to keep it going a longer time.
Yeah, no, super stuff. Well, listen, we've seen the reds. What are we going to see next, Simon?
What would you like to see? What, red ivories, or do you want to go somewhere else? Or
let's go red ivories. I don't know where else we can go. Let's go red ivories. So we're getting to look at over the top of the birds here, and that's, you know, it's an interesting perspective to look at them from. Go on, tell us about this. This is a lovely look. This is me here. It's a lovely looking cockbird. Go on, tell us about him.
It is a particularly nice cockbird. It's got absolutely superb feather, very good overall conformity of the bird. But the best thing for me is the colour on it. It's been noted. It was shown this year. A couple of people want birds out of that bird, and it's brother, and. Fantastic bird in terms of colour, but probably sometimes debatable in the UK because it's a very deep, intense red ivory. And some people say you should be able to see, the old terminology, it should be rose. Problem is, you know, when it's moving towards more of the orangery colour, you're competing at world show level, and realistically you need to be in it to win it, and those are the sort of birds that the Spanish breeders and the Italian breeders are aiming for. So that's come out of a Spanish line a few years ago, and managed to hold its colour and hold its own in here with the feather quality. So yeah, I mean, his hen's not quite ready yet. He'll have his hens in the flight cage there. She'll move over when she's showing signs, and he's quite fit though, because that's him whistling now.
I was going to say, we've probably picked that up on film. They are absolutely bouncing. There's a chap up there as well who's having a damn good whistle. He's very keen, isn't he?
Yeah, so yeah, we're fingers crossed, like all of us this time of year. But yeah, fitness is definitely here, and let's hope we breed a few ivories as well.
Yeah, super. Okay, well we've seen there. Where are you going to take us next, Simon?
I think you were overawed with the phaoes. It's the one you picked out. I think we ought to do the phaoes just so you can, realise all your enthusiasm alongside those.
Yeah, well, I'll wow the viewers with my knowledge of them. Let's have a look at them. Simon, we're going to look at these birds, and I mean, this is artistry. These birds look like they've been painted. These are the phaoes, and the markings on them are. I genuinely hope, and it's always a challenge with white cages actually to film through white cages. So I genuinely hope that we get the quality of these on camera. They're an absolutely belting bird, and then it's not just one pair in the room, is it? There's a number of pairs of them.
Yep.
So a good phao. Talk us through, what are we looking for?
Well, a good phao, ideally, being a brown series bird, needs to be as dark as possible. So that's the first thing. Installed from a very young age on me by one of the greats up in Shropshire, Les Roberts. They need to be a nice hammered copper effect on their back, which has not really changed in the way you look at it. So where you see the white coming through, that's where the melanin is. To get it on the head and to get it in the flanks and slightly going to chest, that's the artistry around those birds. And again, you said they look drawn. That's how they should look. They should have that nice brown sort of edging, sort of penciled in right around the flight feathers and the tail feathers. Yeah, those are particularly good birds. I was fortunate to get them off the world champion in Spain. He's looked after me somewhat, and even to get them here is something else. But yeah, I'm evidently hopeful that I can do something useful with them, because being a red-eyed mutation, again, not always the easiest to breed, as they say, but we've got to not look at it like that. We've got to think, let's get in there. So people will say put red-eyed mutations lower down in lesser light. I've put them in different locations this year because I'm going to try that myself, and we'll see how we go. But yeah, you've seen a particularly good strain, to be fair, which is again, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. There's some beautiful yellow ones over here, some beautiful whites. These are the mosaic version you've seen, so you've seen the mosaic face pattern on the cockbird there. I'm like you, I just think they're stunning, which is why they're here. Yeah.
No, they are stunning, and I think when you talk about the sort of the complexity of the colour, the feather, the markings, and then the working that's gone into that pair, and to get them to that quality, and then sort of moving forward and to evolve that to replicate it, to make it that little bit better, and you I think it will come across, because Simon's been incredibly generous with his knowledge, but the knowledge in there in terms of the pairing and what's needed, and the different colours, and the the underfeather, the black underfeather in there, all of those kind of things, that's where the real artistry in this hobby is, isn't it?
Yeah, and you learn that from your knowledge of some of the great breeders, because still, even after all these years, I'm still learning, like we all are. And some people are doing what we used to see years ago with the great Wallace Dean. We used to see that guy doing what we call experimental pairings. We'll come much later onto a couple of experimental pairings in here. And there's a couple of good lads in the UK doing stuff as well, just to think outside the box. It wasn't until about probably 6 or 7 years ago when people said to me, "Oh, black phao," and that's a bit of dark art again. And you're saying black phao. Well, a lot of the good continental breeders tend to use a black in their phaos, but you're not just using any black. You've got to get the right melanin pattern in that black as well to give it enhancement. So phaos, they tend to use a lot of carriers, which is why some people don't want to keep them, because they're equally difficult to sell, because it's basically a brown bird. It looks very almost like a brown pastel, which we've got some of those to look at as well. So some people, they look a bit boring. But when you can get the byproduct, which we're looking for, of the phao, as you said, you came in and you went, wow, they're outstanding. Yeah. And they are a wow bird. And that's when all of us come in our bird room, the beauty about coloured canaries is you should go wow, and you should keep exactly what makes you feel like that every day of the week.
Yeah, no, brilliant stuff. Simon, we talked about experimental pairing, and you've got one. It's in this cage behind us. We'll zoom in on the birds in a minute and have a look at them. And I now know what they are, but I can't remember, because I've got like the memory of an amoeba at the moment. So talk us through this pair, and you said something just before we were chatting as well, which was really important, which is often overlooked, which is when you're breeding, you're not just breeding for this year, you're breeding for a few years down the line.
2-3 years ahead, yeah. So the end game really is, you'll see in mosaic we've got some red mosaic Isabel opals, and I've seen a couple in red ivory, in straight, what I call straight red ivory, intensive and non-intensive feather type, but there's none around of any quality. So I decided a couple of years ago that something I wanted to have a play with. So yeah, as I said, it's a 2 to 3 year project. Still got the original father. That's one of his sons there. So he's an agate cock, split Isabel. So hopefully go into an Isabel hen, red ivory Isabel hen, and both of them are split opal. So we said, let's not overcomplicate it. You've got an agate, which is split Isabel, go into an Isabel hen. The cock's also split red ivory, and they're both split opal. So what I'm looking for, we can use a Mendelin ratio and go 25%, etc., 25, and etc., 50, 25. I might get 1 in 4 chicks that might be an Isabel opal. I could get 0. But over 3 rounds, let's hope we get 1. But yeah, that's what I'm saying, experimental pair, and the father's gone back to another agate opal, so that I can keep the line going further down the line, so to speak. But yeah, it could be an interesting pairing, or they could all end up going to the pet shop, but we don't know until we try it.
No, and I mean that's the beauty of it, isn't it? I think that sort of pushing the boundaries and trying these things, look in the long game, which I think is important.
Yeah.
Look in the long game on them. And seeing what comes out, and then having, like you say, having you've seen the colour, but having seen the colour then with a quality behind it as well, and that's the important aspect. Brilliant stuff, mate. I'm fascinated. I'm a bit confused, but I'm fascinated by all of these things. So, come on, where are we going now in the room? What are we going to have a look at now?
Well, let's have a look at some brown opals, because they're below, so we'll pull some brown opals out and have a look at them for you.
Wonderful stuff. These are another variety. These are very attractive, Simon, aren't they? I'm smitten with these. Come on, talk us through them.
Yeah, so red mosaic brown opals. A mutation I hadn't played with much before. I had them sort of 2 or 3 years now. Managed to get them off a guy, one of a mates, so-called, in Spain. Yeah, real subtle birds, real beautiful looking. I mean, the melanin, you saw a pair, for me, particularly good pair. So we're looking for nice wide melanins on the back. The interstra, which you're calling the stripe between, should be nice and clean. No red bleeding through. Mosaic feather pattern. As I said to you earlier, you know, you're looking for the brown to turn upside down in opal. So you want a nice bluey brown grey colour. I know it sounds a bit loose, but it shouldn't be brown. There's another mutation that's on the rounds, Mogno, which people you've probably heard about Mogno. Well, Mogno's actually going towards the browner stage of opal. So where they've selectively bred Mogno, they're almost a chestnutty brown. These have got to be a bluey grey.
Yeah.
But to the brown tinge, not to the black tinge. Yeah, particularly good example for me. Breed quite freely, pretty looking birds, trying to get a moon on the stick again, trying to get the good feather pattern, the good mosaic pattern, trying to get the nice 4 good thick stripes down the back, getting some nice flanks on them, that's the hard, and the nice triangulation in the chest with the colour. So yeah, it's again work in progress. There's some decent ones here, but we still got to keep pushing forward because they're not where I want them to be yet.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with bird keeping, isn't it? You know, that sort of, it strives that to keep pushing forward. That sort of we achieve. Well, you mentioned it earlier on. We're always learning, and we're always striving forward, and certainly, I mean, the knowledge and the comfort in the knowledge that you've got. I hope it does come across, because there's no arrogance in this man. There's just a real comfort in knowledge, and Simon said to me a couple of times, look, there's no secrets. I don't want any secrets. I want people to know and to take away and to enjoy this hobby. And like anything, when you come to it, I know have it with the fifes and with the Norwich. People talk about the colour and they'll talk about the feather type and the complexity of that. And actually, really what's important, Simon, is just to familiarise yourself with the terms, isn't it?
Yes.
And once you do, then you're there. But the reward in doing that is, you look at the birds in here, the array of different birds in here, you're entering into a world which is, well, it's fascinating. I can see all the viewers now going to be saying to me, so Matt, how many did you order for the end of the season?
Yeah.
The answer so far, Simon, is none. None yet, but we're only halfway through. So, so speaking of halfway through, what are we going to have a look at? What are we going to have a look at next? What have we still got to see?
You've still got plenty to see. You've got some Jasp to see in mosaic and intensive. You've got one of my favourite mutations, which was done particularly well with red agate opals. You've got the Isabel opals you haven't seen yet. So we've still got a few to go.
Got plenty still to come. You're probably best refilling your glasses now, everyone. Let's have a look at them now. Super stuff. Every pair you put up now, Simon, I'm like, whew, I like them. So come on, let's talk these, because these are something special, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're special. This is one of my mainstay mutations, probably known for. Had these quite a long time now, and we're comparable. We can compete on the world stage with these. So yeah, these are red ivory agate opals. You've just seen a particularly good cockbird. I think the cockbird's done a bit of winning this year. Won the national as best red ivory melanin. It's got particularly strong colour. It's got great feather. It's the right size. Similar to your agate, you should still be seeing a good head pattern in these. The same as agate, because it is an agate opal. So you should see all those traits. Clear nails, definitely. Don't want to see any non-clear nails. A good Mexican moustache. And the big traits for me is lovely fine melanin on the back, just a little bit coming into the flanks. We want to see more on the flanks if we can, but they're saying that too much melanin in agate birds is a fault at OMJ. This one's got the right colour wings, so you're looking for that bluey effect, the opal effect to be seen in the wings, which is why they're not colour fed in the nest. They used to be about 8 years ago. And then Com OMJ moved it so they were non-colour fed, so you could see the opalescent in the wings. And as I said to you earlier, in the back you want to see that real nice blue-black, almost the colour of a big biro on the colour of the melanin. So yeah, I mean, particularly great young cockbird, and hopefully it looks like he's taken to the hen. She was just asking to be fed then.
Yeah, there's a bit of love going on in the air behind us here. I feel like we should probably turn the camera off and leave and get to it. But you're right about I mean, interesting that they're non-colour fed, and then you're in the nest, and you've got the that is blue. Yeah. It is. It's sort of you listen to it and you're thinking blue, and then you look and you go, yeah, I can see it. It's there. Fascinating bird.
And do you know what? The first year they changed to being non-colour fed in the nest. Previous to that, to show at world level, I hadn't colour fed in the nest and didn't lose one flight feather. And the year that you couldn't colour feed in the nest, guess what? I lost flight feathers, which is a pull me down in terms of world stage. Yeah. So sod's law, I think they call that. You're going to do it. Never happened before. Then all of a sudden they change, and you're back to square one.
Yeah. Oh dear. Right, come on, we've seen them. They're stunners. Come on. What else can you tempt us with?
Well, what I think potentially, what haven't we seen now? Let's go on to one you mentioned earlier, which was Jasp.
Let's go and have a look at the Jasp. What's a Jasp? Let's go and have a look at the Jasp. So you mentioned before about not having any Jasps until a few years back, and now we've got as with all the birds, we're filming them over the top because it's a great way of displaying the markings and that of the birds, isn't it? Really,
Absolutely.
which is what you're fundamentally what you're looking for. But again, these are the cockbird in here, which is the darker two. He's an absolute belter.
Yeah, well, you've seen a mosaic black Jasp cock, and he's going to a mosaic brown Jasp hen. The cockbird was off a good friend of mine, Alfio Voldinami, Italian bird, so it is particularly strong. You're looking, the points for there. it's down the central spine on the Jasp. You're looking for that melanin down there, so it almost runs in lines. That bird's showing particularly well. It's very close to a grey wing. You also look in the wings, you'll see the wings. We didn't see it from a side view, but you'll see that it's not dissimilar. When you see it on a judging bench, people, when they were first brought out, oh my God, we've got grey wings, which were Jasp. And Jasp now are very prolific, and in all mutations, cobalt Jasp, Isabel Jasp, every Jasp you want to see there. It's a nice, easy mutation to work with because it's a dominant factor. So you can pair it into, I'm pairing an intensive cock to an Isabel hen, intensive black cock to an Isabel hen. And when you get your Jasp out, they're not carrying. You said earlier about things carrying. These are not carrying. They're either Jasp or they're not. With the pairing you filmed, those got the potential, I'll breed all Jasps. Potential to breed some double factor Jasps. So you've got the double factor and single factor, which really confuses some people. Because if you pair, that's probably for another episode to go into the depths of that rather than giving them too much confusion in terms of that. But yeah, they're quite easy to work with. Aesthetically, they're beautiful looking birds, even though I've reneged from being involved with them until sort of this year, just to get to know the finer points. But yeah, you've identified how nice they are. I've seen some beautiful agate Jasp that Mr. Scarati exhibited at the All Colour. Particular little hen was an outstanding looking bird. So they are aesthetically quite pleasing to the eye. And a few breeders over here working with them. And I've seen some very good brown ones. One of the lads sold me that this year. UK breeder, nothing, fantastic. They've got the birds. The birds are here in the UK. If you look around, you'll see plenty of breeders over here that are selling decent quality birds now. Yeah,
and that's important, isn't it? And we touched on it earlier as well about, people, anyone sort of coming into the hobby, they see the rooms. This is a life's work in this room, isn't it, Simon? And
100%.
I think you look at some of the stuff and it's mint, it's immaculate. The cages are incredible, the setup is incredible. But as everybody actually who have ever done a show with when we've been on the road, it's almost like don't be put off by this, because this is what you can get towards, and there's no arrogance in that. This is what you build to over a period of time. You can breed really good quality birds in as long as you get the husbandry right and the environment right. You can breed them in you don't need this fantastic cage system to do it.
No, you said, I watched your last episode the other day with Pete, he's breeding them in his shelving units and breeds the best zebras in the world, bar none, I would say. I always aspired to have something like this, but it's taken me, as you say, a lifetime's work. I started in a little 10x8 in Mum and Dad's garden with some nice wooden cages. Nothing wrong with that. This is just something I want because I've worked towards it, because I want to spend more time looking at my birds and breeding my birds than cleaning the damn things out. A mother used to moan at me traipsing that sawdust in on a Sunday morning to a Flotex carpet like no tomorrow. These days I don't have to bother about that because it just hasn't got to happen. So you haven't got to have this setup. I think you're more important to buy decent birds than a decent cage.
Yeah, no, well said, very well said. Well, look, we'll see some more decent birds. What are we going to have a look at next, Simon? What have we?
I think we'll have a look at some red-brown pastels. Mosaic.
Okay, let's red-brown pastel mosaics. Honestly, it's like a different language to me. It's a bit like the Peter Harrison episode. Every time something new comes up, I'm like, I like that. There is, though, and Pete has got some stunning zebbies, but yeah. there is more chance, Simon, of me getting some new colours than there are. It's not the Canary and zebra finch room, but it is the Canary room. So what have we got here, mate? These are another stunning mutation, aren't they?
Yeah, so again, new one to me this year, but red mosaic, brown pastels. So, as you say, yeah, stunning mutation. The pastel effect gets rid of all the brownness. You don't see the striations like you should. You should see some deep central locations, which you spotted on that cockbird. You can see them down the centre of the back. And then you're putting the pastel has got like a cloak of pastel all over it. So you should have that suffusion of brown, really deep brown as you can get it. Which is why you've got to be careful when you get your phaeo carriers, that you don't get your phaeo carriers and your pastel carriers mixed up, because again, you use carriers. So yeah, a particularly good one with a nice cock with a good mask. That was a good cock bird, not the best by far. Still work in progress, but yeah, you're right. A beautiful mutation that, when it's put out on the show bench to the right quality, should be absolutely superb. So again, nice, clean in the brown series, clean nails, flesh coloured, brown nails, brown beak, and that bird probably typifies a lot of that. It's just hope it does something in the breeding room.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? You sort of talked about it a couple of times, but you're building. You've got new variations in that you're working with, and you'll build them, and you'll get them to a point where you're happy with them, and I guess, with the quality of the room that you've got here, you've got that flexibility, haven't you? It's okay, well, I'd like to try that, or I'm gonna experiment with this, or I'm gonna look at doing something a bit different.
I think what I said to myself this year is, now I've got my rooms sort of sorted when we do the next phase, is I'm now going to keep mutations. Being from a judging perspective, I've done virtually everything. I'm going to keep the ones I want. So some of these have been, phaoes. I had them last quite a few years ago, a lot of years ago, and I wanted to get them back, and it's about finding the stuff. Same with the brown pastels. That they're a beautiful one. Not everybody's cup of tea, but for me, I just like the way they look, and I want to be able to compete at World Show again. That's one of the big aims, if we can take our birds back over and show, and places like VVNK. I want to be competitive out there like I was sort of 10 years ago now. I won the first medal out there. So I want to be getting out there and competing in the backyard of the European fanciers. And I want to do it with mutations that are, there's some really good mutations here, but some of them, as you rightly said, are work in progress, and will take a little bit more finesse to get them where I want to be.
Yeah, and I think that as bird breeders, I think we are, I think, naturally born with a sort of critical eye when we look at our birds. So, we look at them and immediately I look in my room and I'll look at a fife, and somebody will come in and go, God, I love that bird, and I'll say, yeah, but it needs this, and I think that's important, isn't it? It's that honesty that we've got to have. I mean, I look in here, Simon, and I can't see fault in anything, to be honest. I'm looking at these birds thinking, these are bloody lovely. But it is important. I think it's important that we have that sort of that eye and that honesty with ourselves about, we want to compete. We know as a judge, what the standard is you're aiming for, and we want to make sure that as many of the birds that we keep and breed have that standard.
Yeah, no, I was talking to a couple of guys. One of the guys is probably one of the best lipochrome breeders over here, Ash Foster, and he was similar to me. We have a critical eye, both being ex-car sprayers, so I started spraying cars. And I always liken it to people is, when you've got that fault, it's like you get a dent in your door, and I notice you've got a dent on your near side front wing. Yeah. And every time you walk up to your vehicle, the first thing you see is your dent. Yeah. And that's the same with the bird. When you've seen that, you're looking at your bird room every day and you go, yeah, but it's got that missing, or it's a bit weak on the melanins in the flank, or it's not quite got the colour of the other one. And I think we're all like that, and I think that comes down to how, as you say, how you focus and how critical you are on each individual part of the bird. I think it's not all about just judging. I think that helps, but people who don't judge still can be very critical of their own birds. And nobody's a bigger critic than myself of some of my own birds. And, we don't try and keep birds with faults, but similarly, we're trying to improve every year, and it is moving on. And, we said earlier, difference to clear reds and red ivories with the melanins is, melanin is king, especially, when you're showing at World Show level. Great that you're seeing the birds on the back today. I know we missed some of the flanks and stuff, but you're probably going to give the viewers the best look at the best part of the bird is the head and the back. And you'll see some of the beauty better than none captured like that. Yeah,
no, absolutely. Super stuff. Well, listen, they've been incredible. Have we got? Is there still more to see? Yeah. Is there? Of course, there's still more. There's still more to see. Everyone, stay tuned, because this is a masterclass in new colours. This is honestly, Simon. Thank you. It's a real pleasure. To spend time in your company and to spend time in this bird room and to see these birds. So what will we see next?
One of my favourite ones at the moment, and red mosaic isabel opals.
Let's have a look at them now. So he's only gone and done it again, hasn't he? He's only gone and bought another colour variant out, and I'm like, They're nice. They are nice, aren't they? These are beautiful.
Yeah, they are subtly beautiful. It's probably one of the favourite ones in the bird room at the moment, just because it is so subtle in the contrast in colours, and relatively new mutation. So yeah, as we said, red mosaic, Isabel opal. So again, when people first look at them, they come in the bird room and they think they're a clear red mosaic, until you've hopefully captured it on camera, and you can see that beautifully subtle Isabel marking. In terms of width, so very, very narrow, but obviously opal, so turned it upside down again, and you're getting that bluiness, a bit like your brown, because it's Isabel based. So with that, you should see that very subtle, faint lines, broken if we can, into a bluey beige. And the giveaway for me is when you say to people, is when they're looking at it in the bird room, and I don't do it to catch them out, just to teach them and say, what do you think it is? And they say clear red mosaic. Say, well, have a look at the wings. So there is a subtleness of a very light beige in the flight feathers. You can eradicate that, but that's probably a good reason to not eradicate it, because that's one of the key elements of having an Isabel opal. Coupled with the red mosaic pattern, got to make sure you try and get, no different to clear red mosaics, make sure you don't try and get the bleed in the back. Again, when you're pairing up, you'll see that bird in there, the cock bird, has got a slight bleed in the back, hence slightly more what I deem non-intensive in terms of mosaic feather. So still get pulled. So she's got quality markings compared to the cock, although you can't see so much through the bleed in the back. So hopefully good pairing. But yeah, stunning mutation for me.
Yeah, and me. There'll be a conversation happening off camera. You can be assured of that. Oh, wonderful stuff, Simon. Well, I think we'll have a look at another something. Have we got anything else, or is that the last of all?
Oh, no. So we haven't seen yet. One of the ones you haven't seen yet, which you'll want to see, is the red mosaic Satin Max, a non-OMJ.com approved bird at the moment, but we have some here to play with and learn with. Again, you're going to be on the judging stage, you want to see it, so you'll probably be the first to see some of these in the UK.
Fantastic. Let's have a look. Now Simon knows what I'm going to say now, because every time he's put one up, I'm like, they're nice. And then these you mentioned, these are a mutation which is still to be recognised or approved.
Correct. Yeah.
So you've got a number of pairs of these on. These are, Simon. These are special birds, aren't they?
Listen, and it's great. You've looked at them and you've just gone, it's blown you away, which is great. And I know you've liked a few of the mutations. For me, similarly, when I saw them, we're hoping they will get approved. That people are saying certain things that they might not, but I think they're through stage 1, and then we've gone through the COVID, so they've got another 2 years to go before they'll get anywhere. To me, they're a stunning mutation. You can tell the difference, because that's what they're saying. You've got to be able to tell the difference between the birds, especially when you're judging them. They're red eye. They're chestnut. They need chestnut marks on the back. So I'm just looking at one of the pairs now while I'm talking to you, and they're particularly, they are distinguishable, because that's what they need to be. And I think if they do get approval, we've got some quality stuff to work with here in the UK. There's another breeder over here that's got them as well, available in intensive feather type as well. And it's not so much of a trend. I think somebody's been working on this. One of the French guys, Roussel, has been working with these for some time. These come via him, off his line. I'm with you. I just think I'm astounded with the quality of them. Being Satinet, people say, the red eye, they'd be hard to breed. Let's see this year. He seems to say they're very free breeding. And I think as the mutation improves, I think a lot of people will be like you, because that's the beauty of coloured canaries. They go, wow, they want a few pairs. And I think anybody, the one thing I'd say to people when they're seeing all these different mutations, you're seeing quite a few, but you need to keep 6 or 8 of one pair of a mutation to do yourself any justice.
Yeah.
And, I think you said when we were sat having breakfast, what would you say to people when they're coming in? What I'd say to people, it's not difficult, whatever mutation. Mosaics, equally can be as hard now because, you know, the hens and the cocks, but rather than saying type 1, type 2 to confuse people, the hens and the cocks, you know, they're getting hens that look like cocks now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the same in some of these, but you know, predominantly the mosaics are easy to work with. There's lots of people to give you a lot of help over here. You know, some of the boys in the CCBA will all help. A lot of the, you know, the BCC guys, similarly the same. They're all helpful guys. We're trying to encourage people, not discourage people. But you know, choose what they like. Go to some breeders. You don't have to go and spend a fortune with some of the Italian people coming over. You know, £100 a bird. But some of the guys over here have got some fantastic birds that are off quality lines in New Europe. You know, yeah. That's all I'd say is, why think that you have to go and spend a fortune? Yeah, you'll pay for good birds, of course you will. You'll see birds here that are quality because of how much you've had to pay, but to get the quality, you're going to breed quality, so certain breeders over here are going to have a lot for sale.
Yeah.
And there's some cracking guys that'll help people out. So yeah, Matt, it's another one of those wow mutations, but I think you've got about 4 or 5 on the list today.
I think I have. I think the extension of the Canary room can't come quick enough, and New Colour Corner might just get a little bit bigger, and I'll be chatting to Simon about what I need to do with my grey wings, because he's already given me some advice on my grey wings, because he knows what I'm doing, he knows what he's doing, and I am just I don't. I think it's the honest thing to say.
We're all learning.
Well, listen, Simon, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. It's been great to see you. Fabulous hospitality, which I appreciate for. Again, I've got some samples of the egg food. One of the things that we've not touched on and we should do just before we go is that sort of colour feeding of the egg food. And maybe what we'll do, this is where I invite myself back, maybe what we'll do is we'll come back at a later date and have a look at the molt and see how you colour feed. But you're feeding it you're feeding the colour food in a special egg food that you bring in, yeah? Yeah,
not nothing special. So, you know, one of the things that he brings in is the loose, and they do a product called muta, which in English means malt. So they do two. They do the muta, which has got the germix in it, or they do the BM15, which is exactly the same product, and because it's got the right amino acids and the right amount of fat in it, I just feed my carafuls straight in there. So your birds are not, as we said earlier, they're not looking at red colour food and going, oh my God, I'm not eating that. You know, they're picking it up because all you're trying to do is get one grain down their throat every day.
Yeah.
So these grains are, you know, it's an oily food. You don't have to wet it. It's pre-mixed, and the birds naturally take to it. You know, so I've used a hell of a lot of it last year, and the colour, you know, some people say in some of the mutations it's too deep. I don't think we can go too deep. But yeah, the birds naturally take to it, and and this is not a ploy for it, but for me as a breeder, there's no wastage.
Yeah.
I'm not throwing anything away. I had one of the guys ring me last week, said, you know, even the one he's breeding with now, he said it's great because I'm not giving half of it to the wild birds.
Yeah. I think as we would all talk about canaries, you know, the wild birds are often the best. Wild birds or canary keepers are often the best fed wild birds because they end up having half the egg food. But if that's not the case, that's brilliant.
Don't throw any away.
Yeah. Certainly. We'll have a look at that for the Norwich, maybe. Let's have a look at that for the Norwich. Well, Simon, listen, appreciate your time, mate. It's been eye-opening. It's been informative. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, your experience, that judge's eye, and also I think what's really important is, you know, what you're looking for, so the finer points. And I think anyone who watches this episode won't just watch it once; they'll watch it numerous times. It's been a real privilege. If you've enjoyed the show, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and share it. Thanks a lot, mate. It's been a real pleasure. Until next time, everyone, take care.